Maria Alvarez woke before dawn, her alarm soft and insistent. She slipped from her narrow bed, careful not to wake her two younger sisters, who still lay curled beneath patchwork blankets. The small apartment they shared felt quiet in the morning. Light, the familiar hush that came before the city stirred. Maria washed her face with cool water, tied her hair back in a neat braid, and dressed in her uniform, a plain blouse and slacks, freshly pressed but worn at the seams. She paused for a moment, breathing in the promise of the day, and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. By the time she stepped onto the street, the sky had warmed from pale gray to a soft, misty gold. She pulled her cardigan tighter around her shoulders and began the walk to Sunrise Home Care, her bag heavy with supplies, gloves, clean towels, and a small recorder where she kept voice notes on each client's needs. There, smelled of early coffee and damp pavement. A stray cat darted across the sidewalk, and Maria smiled as it vanished into a shadowed alley. She arrived at the nursing agency's office just before 7. The building was plain, its white walls edged with blue trim, and a sign by the door read Sunrise Home Care in neat black letters. Inside, the lobby held a few chairs and a water cooler, and a stack of folders waited on the reception desk. Maria checked in with Mrs. Patel, the agency coordinator, who handed her Mr. Thompson's assignment sheet. Maria studied his name, William Thompson, and the notes beneath. 84 years old, widower, lives alone in apartment 3B. Non-ambulatory, without assistance, mild dementia, but alert. Maria nodded politely, tucked the sheet into her bag, and stepped back outside to catch the bus. On the bus, she found a seat by the window. The city's buildings slid by, the faded red brick of old shops, a small park where children's laughter echoed, and the fresh blooms of early spring spilling from sidewalk planters. Maria unzipped her recorder and played back yesterday's notes, reminding herself of Mr. Thompson's favorite tea chamomile and the lavender sachet he liked tucked under his pillow. She pressed her fingers to the memory of his smile when she first brought him fresh flowers. The memory warmed her, even as the bus rattled over potholes. When the bus reached Mr. Thompson's street, Maria stood and made her way to the front. She stepped down onto the sunlit pavement and followed the route to apartment 3B. The building was older than most in the neighborhood, its paint peeling at the corners, but a small rose garden bloomed beneath the windows. Maria paused to admire the pale pink petals and breathed deeply, letting their sweet scent calm any morning nerves. Inside, the hallway was quiet, and the carpet felt soft beneath her feet. Maria knocked gently and heard a slow shuffle. The door opened halfway, and she gave her warmest smile. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. It's Maria." He peered at her through thick glasses, his white hair thin and combed back. His eyes were cloudy, but when he recognized her, they lit up. "Maria," he said in a gentle voice, "you're early?" "I like to be on time," Maria replied, stepping inside. The apartment was modest and neat. A small kitchen table held a cup of cold tea and a stack of newspapers. A pair of old slippers sat by the door. Family photos lined a shelf. Mr. Thompson with his late wife, both laughing. Him holding a baby, now grown to middle age. A graduation ceremony where someone looked very pleased. Maria set her bag down and reached for gloves. "Would you like chamomile tea today? Or maybe something different?" Mr. Thompson thought for a moment, his gaze drifting to a photo of a younger couple. "Let's stick with chamomile," he said softly. Maria smiled and headed to the small kitchenette. She filled a kettle, set it on the burner, and measured tea leaves into his favorite mug. The gentle hiss of boiling water filled the room, and she carried the warm cup back to his recliner. I settled into the chair, the soft cushions whispering beneath him. Maria handed him the mug. "Careful, it's warm." He nodded and blew gently across the surface before taking a sip. His shoulders relaxed, and he closed his eyes. "Thank you, Maria. You always know what I like." Maria felt a rush of pride. Even in the smallest moments, connection mattered. She placed a tray with his breakfast beside him, soft scrambled eggs, a toast with a thin smear of jam, and a bowl of fresh strawberries. She watched as he took his first bite, his eyes closing in appreciation. The morning light fell across his lap, soft and golden, making the ordinary moment feel special. After breakfast, it was time for his daily exercises. Maria helped him to stand, guiding his arm through the smooth motion of raising and lowering it. Each movement was slow but steady. She counted softly. 1, 2, 3, and alongside her gentle rhythm, Mr. Thompson found his own. His legs shook lightly, but he stood tall and proud. "You're doing great," Maria encouraged. He looked at her with gratitude. "Make this easy?" When the exercises ended, Maria helped him back into the recliner. She smoothed the blanket across his knees and dabbed its sweat on his brow with a damp cloth. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small music player. "Oh, wood. You like some music today? I found that you enjoy your wife's old records." Mr. Thompson's eyes glowed. "Yes, please, Moon River if you have it." Maria pressed play, and the soft notes drifted through the apartment. She moved to the window and opened the curtains wider, letting in more light. The music wove around them, and Mr. Thompson closed his eyes, perhaps remembering a dance in some long-forgotten ballroom. As the song ended, Maria sat beside him and took his hand. She noticed that his grip, though weaker than it once was, still held a quiet strength. "How are you feeling today?" she asked. He sighed, a gentle sound filled with years of memories. "I feel lucky," he said. "You remind me of good times." Maria squeezed his hand. "I'm glad." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the room warm with sunlight and the faint scent of strawberries lingering in the air. Maria watched Mr. Thompson's chest rise and fall, steady and calm, and she thought about her own family waiting at home. She knew that after her shift ended, she would hurry back to cook lunch for her sisters, help them with homework, and tuck them into bed. She carried her own worries of bills to pay and dreams deferred, but here, in this quiet apartment, she felt a lightness she rarely found elsewhere. Suddenly, Mr. Thompson smiled and reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small, worn photograph or picture of a woman with laughing eyes. "This was my aunt on our wedding day," he said. Voice trembling, "She sang to me that day."
Aunt.
Maria's breath caught. She gazed at the photo. A young woman in a lace dress, her hair pinned up, her head tilted toward her husband. Maria felt a twinge of sadness and wonder. "She's beautiful," she whispered. Mr. Thompson nodded, eyes moist. "Would you sing it for me, Maria?" Just softly, like she did. Maria hesitated. She had never sung for a client before. But she saw the trust in his eyes, the longing for a moment that once was. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and let the memory of her own mother's lullabies guide her. Then she began, in a voice low and steady, "Oh, dream maker, you heartbreaker, wherever you're going, I'm going your way." "Mr." Thompson's hand tightened around hers. Words floated between them, fragile and hopeful. When Maria finished, she opened her eyes to find tears on his cheeks. "Thank you," he said. "You sound just like her." Maria felt her own tears, but she blinked them away. "I'm happy you liked it." She stayed by his side for a few more minutes, letting the moment settle before she rose to gather her things. As she packed her bag, she glanced at the clock. It was nearly 10. Time to move on, to keep her day moving, to care for the next person on her list. But before she left, she bent to kiss his forehead. "I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Thompson." He nodded, voice soft with contentment. "I'll be here." As Maria stepped into the hallway, the melody of her song seemed to linger in the air. She took a deep breath, steadied herself, and continued on her day's journey to jobs. Family obligations, bills to pay, all of it waiting. Yet she carried with her the warmth of that morning, the quiet joy of connecting two hearts through a simple song. And somewhere, in the back of her mind, she held the promise of another chance to bring comfort, one gentle melody at a time. Maria woke early the next morning, her body still humming with the memory of her song. She stepped lightly through the small hallway, careful not to wake her sisters. The first rays of sun slipped through the curtains as she made her way to the kitchen. There, she brewed a pot of coffee with measured hands. The warm steam curled around her face, giving her a small comfort before the busy day ahead. She packed her bag again, folding fresh gloves and clean towels neatly inside. A small smile lifted her lips as she thought of Mr. Thompson's joy. The day before, she'd loved to see him happy. On the bus, Maria settled into her seat by the window. She watched the city awaken. Vendors set up carts, and the smell of frying bread mixed with the cool morning air. She closed her eyes for a moment and played the tune she had sung. It floated in her mind like a gentle breeze. She wondered if today she might sing again. The thought made her heart flutter. She breathed deeply, steadying her nerves. Even though she cared for many clients, Mr. Thompson's home felt special. His apartment was small, but full of memories he cherished. She remembered the photo of his wife, Anne, and the stories he told about their early years. She felt honored to share these moments with him. When the bus came to her stop, Maria stepped off and walked the familiar route to apartment 3B. The rose gardens still bloomed, and she paused to touch a soft petal before moving on. Inside the hallway, the carpet muffled her footsteps. She knocked gently on the doorframe. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson," she called softly. The door opened, and she saw him standing there in his striped pajamas and worn slippers. His eyes brightened. "Good morning, Maria," he said. "Come in." She stepped inside. Greeted by the soft scent of lavender sachets he kept on his dresser. She smiled and placed her bag on the armchair. "How are you today?" "Oh," she asked. He sighed and settled into his recliner. "A little restless," he admitted. "My mind keeps wandering." Maria nodded and moved to the window. She pulled the curtains wider and let the light flood the room. "Maybe we can try something new today," she suggested. She brought out a small sketch pad and colored pencils from her bag. "Would you like to draw with me?" she asked. Mr. Thompson hesitated. "I haven't drawn since I was a child," he said. Maria nodded. "That's okay, just simple shapes or flowers." She handed him a pencil and sat beside him. For a few minutes, they both drew quietly. He sketched a curved line that looked like a hill with 2 circles above it. She drew a bright sun and green grass. They laughed softly at their drawings. His breath evened out as he focused on the pencils and paper. She watched the lines grow, simple but full of effort. While Maria looked at her watch. "Time for tea?" she asked. Mr. Thompson nodded and handed her his drawing. She smiled and put his sketch away. In the kitchen, she warmed water and made chamomile tea. She carried the mug back to him with a small plate of biscuits, crumbled one between his fingers, and tasted it slowly. "Thank you," he said, eyes misting. "You always know how to brighten the day." Maria felt a warmth in her chest at his gratitude. She returned to her bag and pulled out a small portable radio. "Would you like to hear some music?" she asked. He nodded, and she tuned it to a soft classical station. A gentle violin melody filled the room. She sat by his side, holding his hand. "Close your eyes if you'd like," she said. "I did." And his breathing relaxed. Maria watched his chest rise and fall, steady and calm. Meanwhile, 3 floors above, Daniel Thompson looked out his penthouse window at the city below. The sprawling downtown lights blinked in the distance, but his thoughts were not on the skyline. Still carried the image of his father's face. When Maria sang to him, he poured himself a drink and paced the marble floor. He had returned early from his trip to London and meant only to surprise his father with an orchid plant and brief hello. Yet he stayed in the doorway of apartment 3B longer than planned. He watched Maria's gentle care, her song, and her kindness. It stirred feelings he had not known before. Daniel ran his hand through his hair, thought of his life board. Meetings, travel, deals worth millions. He realized he had never truly looked at his father in years. He had hired staff to care for him, but he had never stayed long enough to see the person providing that care. He frowned, feeling a twinge. Of guilt? He wanted to knock on the door and thank her that day, but he had hesitated. He had slipped away before she ended her visit. He felt restless, pulled by a desire to do something meaningful. Downstairs, Maria helped Mr. Thompson into his favorite chair near the window. She covered his legs with a soft blanket and adjusted his pillow. She took a sip of tea herself, careful not to stain her uniform. She looked at the clock. Her shift would end in 30 minutes, and she would need to hurry to her second job. But she lingered, enjoying the stillness. She glanced at the sketchpad and saw his small drawing taped to the table. She smiled. He was so proud of that simple shape. She began to pack her things when she heard a soft knock at the door. She paused and looked up. Mr. Thompson sat quietly, watching. Maria answered the door to find Daniel standing there in a crisp suit. His hair was neatly styled, and he held a small box behind his back. Maria's heart skipped. She had seen him briefly before, but knew only his face, not his name or story. Looked at her with honest eyes. "Hello," he said. "Thompson Williams' son." Maria offered her hand. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Thompson. I'm Maria Alvarez, his caregiver." She hesitated, uncertain of his purpose. Daniel smiled. "Please, call me Daniel. May I come in?" Maria stepped aside, and he entered. He carried the box to the table. Inside lay a delicate orchid plant, its white petals soft and elegant. Maria set it down gently. "It's beautiful," she said. Daniel nodded. "I thought my father would. Like some fresh flowers." "Thank you for taking such good care of him." Maria felt warmth spread through her. "It's my pleasure." Daniel turned to look at Mr. Thompson, who nodded with a small smile. Then Daniel's eyes met Maria's. He studied her kindly. "I watched you yesterday," he said softly. Maria's heart beat faster. She had not realized he had been there. Daniel continued, "You sang to my father. You gave him something special, something I could not." Maria's cheeks flushed. She looked down at her feet, shy and surprised. Daniel cleared his throat. "Want to thank you properly." He reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a crisp envelope. "This is a gift," he said. He handed it to Maria. She opened it and saw a check for tuition full payment to the nursing program she had dreamed of attending. Her breath caught. In her throat, Daniel spoke gently. "I know how hard you work. Okay, I know you want to become a nurse's assistant.
Please use this to follow your dream." The tears.
Tears filled Maria's eyes as she looked up. I don't know what to say." Daniel offered a warm smile. "You deserve this, Maria. You have changed my father's life and mind just by caring for him." Maria wrapped her arms around the orchid, her heart full. She met Daniel's eyes again and whispered, "Thank you." Mr. Thompson sat in his chair watching the exchange. He felt a joy he had not known in years. His daughter-in-law had passed away long ago, and he had missed her laughter and song. Now, in Maria's music and gentle care, he found a new hope. As Maria and Daniel spoke, the afternoon light softened around them, wrapping the small apartment in a golden glow. In that moment, three lives connected by compassion and kindness found a path forward together, and the world outside continued its busy pace, unaware of the simple miracle unfolding within apartment 3B. Maria woke before dawn the next day, her mind racing with excitement and nerves. She lay still for a moment, listening to the quiet of the small apartment. The gentle breathing of her two sisters reminded her of why she worked so hard. She slipped out of bed, careful not to disturb them, and dressed in her uniform. She felt the weight of the envelope in her pocket, knowing it held the key to her future. Her heart pounded as she tucked it away. Today, she would call the nursing school and accept the scholarship. It felt surreal to imagine herself in classes and clinicals, learning to care for others in a new way. She hurried through her morning routine, preparing a simple breakfast of oatmeal and tea for her sisters. She smiled as they ate, grateful for their company and support. After they left for school, Maria gathered her things and set out for sunrise home care. The air was crisp, and the sky glowed pink with the rising sun. A few early commuters nodded as she passed. She climbed onto the bus, found her usual seat, and reached into her bag for the envelope. She held it gently in her palm and closed her eyes, feeling its promise. She wondered how her life would change once she enrolled. She pictured herself studying medical charts, practicing hygiene techniques, and comforting patients. When the bus reached Mr. Thompson's building, Maria stepped off with purpose. She climbed the stairs 2 at a time, excitement coursing through her legs. She knocked on apartment 3B's door and entered to find Mr. Thompson already seated in his chair. The orchid Daniel had given him resting on the table. He looked well rested and happy. "Good morning, Maria," he greeted with a soft smile. Maria returned his smile warmly. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. How are you today?" She placed her bag on the armchair and removed her gloves. Mr. Thompson leaned forward. "My son called last night," he said quietly. "Wants to meet with you." Maria's heart skipped. She thought of Daniel's kindness and his offer to pay for her schooling. She nodded. "I would be honored," she said. "He wants to discuss your care and something else," Mr. Thompson continued. "You should know he is very grateful for all you have done." Maria felt a warm glow spread through her chest. She took his hand gently. "I care for you because I respect you, sir. No reward could match that." They sat in silence for a moment, the sunlight streaming through the window. Maria thought of her own father, far away, proud of her dreams. She thought of her sisters and the sacrifices she made so they could stay in school. She felt the world opening to her. She took a deep breath, steeled by hope. "Shall we begin?" she asked. Mr. Thompson nodded. "Yes, let's start with our exercises." Maria helped him stand and guided him through each movement. They counted together. 1, 2, 3. Each lift of his arm, each bend of his knee, showed progress and trust. She encouraged him softly, praising small victories. After their exercises, Maria prepared chamomile tea and biscuits. They sat at the table and sipped quietly. Mr. Thompson reached into his pocket and handed her a folded piece of paper. Maria opened it to find a printed acceptance letter from the nursing school. She gasped. "They want me," she whispered, her voice trembling. Mr. Thompson's eyes shone with pride. "Your son spoke highly of you," he said, "convinced them to give you a chance." Maria folded the letter and held it close. She could barely believe her luck. She thanked him, tears in her eyes. "I will work hard," she promised. "I want to help people just like I help you." Later that morning, Daniel arrived punctually at the door. He greeted Maria with a warm smile and Mr. Thompson with a respectful nod. He held a folder and a coffee for Maria. "I thought you might need this," he said kindly. Maria accepted the coffee, her hands steady despite her nerves. They sat at the table. Daniel asked about her plans for the program. She described her eagerness to learn vital signs, wound care, and patient communication. She spoke of her desire to care for elders like Mr. Thompson, to bring comfort and dignity. Daniel listened, intently impressed by her clarity and passion. He then asked practical questions about her schedule and expenses. Maria explained her to jobs and the costs of books and uniforms. Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "I want to cover any additional costs you might face," he said. "Should focus on your studies and on caring for Mr. Thompson." Maria felt overwhelmed by his generosity. She thanked him, tears filling her eyes again. Daniel stood and offered his hand. "Congratulations," he said simply. Maria rose and shook his hand, feeling the strength of his support. "Thank you for believing in me," she said softly. That afternoon, after Maria finished her shift, she rushed to the nursing school's admissions office. The campus was large, with red brick buildings and green lawns. Students passed by, books in arm. Maria carried her acceptance letter like a treasure. She met with the admissions officer, who congratulated her and guided her through registration. Maria chose courses: Anatomy 101, Introduction to Patient Care, and Ethics in Healthcare. She signed forms and paid fees, her heart racing with each step. She left with a schedule in hand and a new student ID card. It felt official, like she truly belonged. On her way home, Maria stopped at a small flower shop and bought a handful of daisies. She thought of Mr. Thompson's orchid and wanted to return the kindness. She arrived at his apartment and knocked. He greeted her with a gentle smile, handed him the daisies. "For you," she said. He accepted them gratefully and placed them in a small vase. The bright petals contrasted with his green orchid leaves. He looked at Maria with admiration. "You have a good heart," he said. Maria blushed. "I learned from you." Over the next few weeks, Maria balanced her work and her studies. She attended classes twice a week in the evenings, arriving weary but determined. She carried her uniform and her textbooks in a sturdy bag. In class, she learned to measure blood pressure, to clean wounds, and to communicate with patients. Instructors praised her attention to detail and her gentle manner. She made new friends among her classmates, women and men who shared her dream of caring for others. They studied together, quizzed each other, and practiced techniques in the lab. Maria felt alive with purpose. At Sunrise Home Care, she continued to visit Mr. Thompson, arriving with fresh stories from her classes. She described the theory behind what she learned, explaining why certain exercises helped, why hygiene was vital, and how nutrition supported healing. Mr. Thompson listened. Impressed by her progress, he asked her to show him how to take his own pulse, and she guided his fingers to his wrist. They practiced together, smiling at each success. Daniel sometimes joined them on weekends, bringing his father to appointments or sending fresh fruit. The small apartment became a place of learning and warmth. One afternoon, Maria faced a challenge. Mr. Thompson had a small cut on his hand from an old pair of scissors. He warned her before the cut began to bleed. Maria remained calm, retrieved her first aid kit, and cleaned the wound gently with antiseptic. She applied a small dressing and gave him clear instructions on keeping it clean. Her instructor's voice echoed in her mind. Be calm and confident. Patients feel your energy. Mr. Thompson watched her with trust. He nodded and said, "You handled that well." Maria exhaled, proud of herself. She realized she was becoming the professional she dreamed of. As the weeks passed, Maria found herself growing stronger in mind and spirit. She managed her time carefully, studying late. Into the night after her sisters slept, she cooked simple meals, balancing nutrition for her family and herself. She laughed with friends in her classes and confided in them when she felt overwhelmed. Every challenge became an opportunity to learn. Every success filled her with hope. She thought often of Daniel's kindness and Mr. Thompson's gratitude. They gave her the strength to persevere. Towards the end of the month, Daniel invited Maria and his father to his penthouse for dinner. He said he wanted to celebrate her achievements. Maria felt nervous at the idea of entering the world of a millionaire, but she accepted politely. That evening, she dressed in her best blouse and arrived with a small gift for Daniel: homemade cookies. They ate around a long table overlooking the city lights. Daniel toasted to Maria's success and to the future of caring for others. Mr. Thompson beamed with pride. Maria felt like she belonged in that moment, not as a guest, but as part of a family united by kindness. Later, as she walked home, Maria looked up at the stars. She thought of the journey ahead, the clinical rotations, the exams, the moments of doubt. Yet she felt ready. She carried within her the song she once sang, the sketch she once drew, and the support of two men who believed in her. She knew the road would not always be easy, but she also knew that compassion and determination could transform lives, hers and many more to come. And in her heart, she held the promise of a future where she would bring comfort, healing, and hope, one gentle act at a time. Maria woke before her alarm again, though her body begged for a few more minutes of rest. The night had been short. She had stayed up late studying for her next exam in patient care. Her textbooks spread across the kitchen table. She closed her eyes and pictured herself administering medications safely, practicing the careful steps she had learned. She took a deep breath, rose from the narrow mattress, and dressed in her uniform. Today was a big day. She had her first clinical rotation at the city hospital before heading to Mr. Thompson's apartment. She checked her bag to be sure she had everything: stethoscope, notepad, pens, and her badge. The bus ride to the hospital felt longer than usual, but Maria used the time to review her notes. She read aloud to herself: check hand hygiene, confirm patient identity, explain procedure clearly. The bus rattled along crowded streets, and she gripped the seat, steadying her nerves. When the bus stopped near the hospital entrance, she steadied herself, smoothed her uniform, and stepped off. The hospital stood tall and modern, its glass doors reflecting the morning sun. Maria paused to catch her breath, then walked inside. She checked in at the nurse station, where a friendly supervisor named Ms. Eaton greeted her. "You must be Maria Alvarez," she said kindly. "Welcome to Ward B." Maria smiled and offered her badge. "Thank you. I'm excited and a bit nervous." Ms. Eaton led her through the ward-along corridor, lined with patient rooms, and pointed out the break room and supply closets. She introduced Maria to the charge nurse, who showed her where to find gloves, gowns, and charts. Maria nodded, grateful for the clear guidance. Her first assignment was to assist with morning rounds for Mr. Lee, an elderly man recovering from hip surgery. Maria washed her hands thoroughly and donned gloves. She followed the nurse into the room. Mr. Lee lay in bed, propped up with pillows. His face brightened when he saw them. Maria greeted him softly. "Good morning, Mr. Lee. I'm Maria, and I'll be helping with your care today." He nodded and smiled weakly. With Ms. Eaton's instruction, Maria checked his vital signs: temperature, pulse, respiration, and blood pressure. Her hands were steady, her voice calm. She recorded the numbers in his chart. Mr. Lee thanked her, and she felt a surge of pride after the vitals. Ms. Eaton guided Maria through the process of changing the bed linens and helping Mr. Lee sit up. They moved slowly, keeping him safe and comfortable. Maria learned to adjust the bed height and lock the wheels before repositioning him. She felt each movement mattered. She finished by ensuring he had his water glass within reach and the remote control nearby. "Well done, Ms. Eaton," said quietly. Maria's cheeks warmed with satisfaction. Between patients, Maria practiced hand hygiene and reviewed her notes. She helped dress wounds with supervision and learned to document carefully. The hours flew by. She found herself growing more confident with each task. At midday, she took a short break in the staff lounge, where she ate a simple sandwich and drank water. She thought of her sisters and their younger faces, needing her support. She felt grateful for this chance to learn and provide real care. When her rotation ended, Maria thanked Ms. Eaton and the nursing team. She stepped out into the afternoon sun, her uniform feeling heavy but her heart light. She thought of Mr. Thompson waiting for her. She caught the bus back, rehearsing the song. She might sing to him again, or discussing her day. She wondered if his memory had more good moments to share. Back at apartment 3B, Maria entered to find Mr. Thompson reading a newspaper. He looked up and smiled. "How was the hospital?" he asked. Maria set her bag down. "It was busy, but I learned a lot. The staff was kind and patient with me." She reached for his hand. "How are you feeling?" he sighed. "Some days I feel strong, others I feel tired." Maria nodded. "I have something that might help today." She pulled out a small music player and a set of old records. She had borrowed one with his wife's favorite songs and another with soft instrumental pieces. "Would you like to listen to some music tonight?" she asked. His eyes lit up. "Yes, that would be lovely." She helped him settle into his chair and placed the player on the table. She selected a song and turned up the volume just enough. The soft melody of a piano drifted through the room. She sat beside him quietly, letting the music work its magic. Mr. Thompson closed his eyes and tapped his foot. After the song ended, he looked at her. "I remember dancing with Anne to this tune. It was our song." Maria squeezed his hand. "Music can bring back memories," she said simply. "Happy to share it with you." That evening, after dinner, they sat together in companionable silence. Maria noticed Mr. Thompson seemed more at ease than usual. She stayed a little longer, talking softly about her day at the hospital, the patients she met, and the skills she practiced. He listened with interest, asking questions about his care and her studies. She answered as best she could, feeling proud to bridge theory and real life. A few minutes before her shift ended, there was a knock at the door. Maria stood and opened it to find Daniel waiting, holding 2 cups of tea. He smiled warmly.
"I
thought you might need a hot drink after your day." Maria accepted a cup gratefully. The familiar mix of spices warmed her hands. Daniel stepped inside, greeting Mr. Thompson with a respectful nod. He placed the tea on the table and looked at Maria. "I heard about your rotation at the hospital." "Daniel, I'm very impressed." Maria hid a shy smile. "Thank you. I hope to help people like Mr. Lee and many others." Daniel turned to his father. "Dad told me music has been helping you today." Mr. Thompson nodded.
Maria's?
Playlists bring back good memories. Daniel looked at Maria with honest admiration. You have a real gift for care and compassion. Maria felt her cheeks flush. I just do what I can. Daniel reached into his pocket and took out a small notebook. I have an idea, he said, handed it to Maria. Inside were pages neatly filled with contacts for local home health agencies and community clinics. I thought you might need connections after you graduate, he explained. I've arranged meetings for you. Maria's eyes widened. This is so generous. I don't know what to say, Daniel smiled. You deserve every opportunity. Mr. Thompson watched the exchange, his heart full. He felt gratitude for both Maria and Daniel. We turned to Maria. You have changed my life in so many ways. Maria blinked back tears. I care for you because you matter, Daniel added, and because the world needs more people like you. Maria folded the notebook carefully and placed it in her bag. She felt overwhelming thanks welling inside. Her? She cleared her throat. I will work hard to honor your trust, she said. After Daniel left, Maria stayed to help Mr. Thompson wash his face and prepare for bed. She sang a soft lullaby, her voice gentle and sure. He drifted to sleep with a peaceful smile. Maria tidied the living room and packed her things. As she stepped into the hallway, she took a deep breath. The past months had changed her life scholarship, classes, hospital experience, Mr. Thompson's friendship, Daniel's support. She knew challenges lay ahead, exams, clinical rotations, late nights, but she also knew she was not alone. Compassion, kindness, and determination had guided her so far. She walked down the stairs into the cool night air, her heart full of hope, ready for whatever the next day would bring. ChatGPT said, the morning sun warmed Maria's face as she stepped onto the small stage in the community center's auditorium. Friends and family gathered in folding chairs before her, their faces filled with pride. She smoothed the edge of her new uniform, the crisp white top and navy pants that marked her as a certified nursing assistant. In her hand, she held the certificate she had worked so hard to earn. Her heart pounded with excitement and a touch of nerves. This moment felt like the summit of a long climb, and as she looked into the crowd, she saw Mr. Thompson wearing his best shirt, Daniel in a neat suit, and her sisters clutching handmade cards. Maria's breath caught. She stepped forward to receive her diploma from the school director, whose warm smile encouraged her. When her name was called, she walked steadily across the stage, shaking hands and accepting the folder that held her achievement. The applause that followed felt like waves of joy washing over her. Back in the small apartment she still called home, Maria removed her uniform and placed it carefully on a hanger. The late afternoon sunlight fell across the living room where her sisters sat, drawing or reading. She knelt beside them and showed them the certificate. Their eyes lit up, and they crowded around her, hugging her tightly. Her youngest sister whispered, "You did it." Maria felt tears in her own eyes. She hugged them back, feeling the warmth of family and love that had driven her every step of the way. She told them about the ceremony, about the directors, words praising her care and determination, and about how she had looked in the crowd to find their faces cheering her on. They laughed and clapped, their simple joy making the moment feel complete. That evening, Maria returned to apartment 3B. She carried with her a small cake and a bouquet of daisies and lila bright. Cheerful flowers she chose to match the room's gentle light. Mr. Thompson was in his recliner, the orchid still blooming on the table. He looked up with a soft smile as she entered. "Congratulations, Maria," he said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. Maria placed the cake on a small plate and the bouquet in a vase. She lit a single candle on the cake and handed him a slice of sweet vanilla with a light frosting. They ate together, sharing quiet laughter and warm memories. Daniel arrived shortly after, carrying 2 cups of chamomile tea. He set them down and joined them at the table. The 3 of them sat side by side, enjoying cake and flowers in each other's company. It felt like a family gathering full of comfort and gratitude. In the days that followed, Maria began her new job at a nearby senior care facility. The building was bright and welcoming, with wide hallways, potted plants by the windows, and cheerful artwork on the walls. On her first day, she met the other nursing assistants and the head nurse, Nurse Rodriguez, who showed her around. Maria learned the names of each resident, their routines, and their favorite pastimes. She found that her classes had prepared her well. When she checked vital signs, assisted with meals, or helped residents with exercises, she felt confidence in her skills. She greeted each person with a warm smile and gentle voice, offering small comforts, a cool glass of water, a soft blanket, a listening ear. She introduced music sessions, playing songs that reminded residents of their youth, and organized simple art activities like coloring and clay modeling. The hallways soon echoed with laughter and conversation, and Maria felt joy in knowing that her presence made a difference. Every weekend, Maria continued to visit Mr. Thompson. She wanted to be sure he still felt supported and to share stories. From her new work, they would sit by the window where the sun fell on his favorite chair. She told him about Mrs. Peterson, who loved humming old tunes, and Mr. Garcia, who enjoyed hot chocolate each afternoon. He listened with delight, his eyes bright. She also helped him with light exercises, offering new stretches she learned in her training. He followed her guidance carefully, his trust in her evident in every movement. They sang together sometimes, the lullaby she first sang for him, and sometimes jazz standards from his youth. Their bond remained strong, a friendship that bridged age and life experience. One Saturday, Daniel invited Maria and Mr. Thompson to a small celebration at his home. The house was spacious, with tall windows overlooking a garden filled with blooming roses. Daniel cooked a simple meal: roasted vegetables, fresh bread, and a light soup that he knew Mr. Thompson enjoyed. Maria and Daniel set the table together, laughing at small cooking mishaps, while Mr. Thompson rested in a comfortable chair by the fireplace. When the meal was ready, they ate around a polished wooden table. Daniel raised his glass of fruit-infused water to Maria, he said, whose compassion and hard work have brought light to our lives. Mr. Thompson and Maria cheered, clinking glasses. Maria felt tears of happiness. She realized that in caring for Mr. Thompson, she had gained more than a student's certificate. She had found a chosen family. In the quiet moments of the evening, Daniel and Maria walked in the garden. Fireflies flickered among the flowers, and the air was sweet with the scent of jasmine. Daniel spoke softly about his plans for a foundation to support caregivers like Maria, people who brought dignity and kindness to those in need. Maria listened, her heart racing with gratitude and hope. She told him she would be honored to help with the foundation's outreach, to share her story and encourage others to become caregivers. Daniel smiled, his eyes reflecting the lantern. "Light, your journey inspires me," he said. "Together we can help many more families." Maria nodded, imagining a future where every elderly person had caring hands by their side. As the seasons changed, Maria found herself growing in her role. She mentored new nursing assistants, sharing tips on time management and patient communication. She led workshops on compassionate care, teaching that every small act, holding a hand, offering a warm blanket, listening to stories, could brighten a person's day. She organized community events, like a garden tea party for residents and their families, where laughter and music filled the courtyard. She found that her own dreams continued to expand, now including plans to become a registered nurse one day. The foundation Daniel envisioned provided scholarships, and Maria applied with confidence, knowing she had support from her loved ones and her professional community. One bright morning, Maria received a letter from the foundation's board. She opened it with trembling hands. Inside was an offer of a full scholarship to an accredited nursing program, covering tuition and living expenses for 2 years. Her heart soared. She called Daniel, who congratulated her with joy, and Mr. Thompson, whose pride brought tears to his eyes. Her sisters danced around her apartment in celebration, and even neighbors peeked in to offer hugs. The world seemed full of possibility. That evening, Maria returned to apartment 3B for one last time before classes began. She helped Mr. Thompson settle in, and then took out her recorder, the same one she used when she first started caring for him. She pressed play and sang softly the lullaby that had changed both their lives. Her voice had grown stronger and more confident, but the tenderness remained. Mr. Thompson closed his eyes, and for a moment the years melted away. When the song ended, Maria held his hand. "Thank you for teaching me," she whispered. "Thank you for your trust." He squeezed her hand in return. "You taught me resilience and hope," he replied. "I am grateful." As she left the apartment that night, Maria paused on the stoop. She looked up at the moon, bright and clear, and breathed deeply. She thought of the journey she had traveled from the young caregiver humming in a modest uniform to the confident professional with dreams of nursing school. She remembered the faces of those she had helped, the songs she had sung, the sketches they had made together. She carried their stories with her, woven into her own. With determination and compassion, she had changed her life and theirs. Smiled, ready for the next chapter, knowing that no matter what lay ahead, she would carry the light of kindness and care into every future she touched.